It is now day 16 in the search for Nancy Guthrie, an 84-year-old woman believed to be kidnapped from her Tucson home.
Investigators haven't identified any suspects, but today the sheriff cleared all members of the Guthrie family from having any ties to the disappearance.
12 News journalist Gabriela Becerra is live outside of Nancy Guthrie's home where this investigation stands tonight. Gabby?
Well, Mark Kriebe, investigators are still trying to identify the person who was seen on Nancy's doorbell camera from the night that she disappeared, a person that the FBI has previously called a possible suspect in this case. But while we wait for that person to be identified, the sheriff is now telling us who isn't involved in Nancy's disappearance. The focus on finding a suspect involved in 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie's disappearance intensifies as Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos rules out her own family. In a statement, Nanos says in part, to be clear, the Guthrie family, to include all siblings and spouses, has been cleared as possible suspects in the case. The family has been nothing but cooperative and gracious and are victims in this case. To suggest otherwise is not only wrong, it is cruel. This comes after Nanos previously said he didn't plan to rule anyone out.
I wouldn't say anybody's ruled out yet, because what if I rule you out and then later I learn something else?
I asked a retired Phoenix police commander for his insight on this new development.
Why would you do that? Why would you call them out publicly and say, well, we looked at you? No, you don't do that. You just let it ride out.
As the sheriff rules people out, his detectives are also focusing in on the person seen on Nancy's doorbell camera video the night she disappeared, specifically what he was wearing. His backpack is sold exclusively at Walmart, and today the sheriff's department confirms his clothes could have also been purchased at Walmart.
It's outstanding that they've identified a primary store where that has come from, because that gives you an investigative path that you can now follow.
Jeffrey Hines tells me investigators are likely going through Walmart's surveillance video and purchase records.
That is something that gives them something to put their teeth into and just keep digging until they find that one lead that leads them to that suspect.
Another possible lead in the case, DNA found inside Nancy's home, which Nanos told NBC News doesn't belong to Nancy or anyone close to her. It's unclear if investigators have since determined whose DNA it is.
Also want to look for any family ties, any connective relationships that you get a partial hit, you get something that leads you to something else.
And I asked the FBI if they're also ruling out family members as possible suspects in this case, but did not yet get a response. Live in Tucson, Gabriela Becerra, 12 News.
All right, Gabby, thanks.